Hi, Jamelin. How you doing? So thank you so much for getting this posted and up and running. And I think that you're going to find this just much more expeditious, getting the work up. And I know you had some issues, but getting the work up and getting some comments and really getting some good recommendations, comments under your belt, and really being able to see and understand what other people see when they look at your work. And that's really how design works. Otherwise, we're practicing in a vacuum. And I think a lot of times, for myriad reasons, students tend to practice in a vacuum. And I think one of the main things is the things that are happening to a lot of students in summer sessions, and that's just the time management thing. So I think that you're going to find that this is just it's going to be very smooth for you to make the transitions between what you see, what others see, what the company wants to represent, and the final outcome. So thank you so much. All right, now I want to take a look at the written rationale, and you say I want to look at your examples first, but and you looks like you're using from some of the stuff that you had developed earlier, and that's great. No sense in throwing away assets, right? The sketch describes how George Mason Wellness Center is designed to reach out to other and stand out. The fifth design's goal was to communicate a gentler, softer approach. Let me see that. You say that was the fifth. Yeah, I'll talk about that. Made a jam larger to draw attention. Eighth sketch, I wanted to have a simple but still bold approach. I felt a simple design would communicate positive. Let me see that number 8. Yeah, I see it. Okay, and I want to address each one of I want to address each of these because I think each has some inherent issues and some inherent strengths. Right now, I think this is your strongest, and it's for a couple of reasons. I think regarding form, I think it's the most interesting to look at. This has some kind of unusual shapes, and it's got a little bit of visual tension through here. Like, exactly what is it? Is it half a heart? Does it look like one of those EKG things? It looks like part of a heart. It's just difficult to ascertain what the direction is here. Um, this one looks a little bit forced, and the problem that you're having in all of these, except number 9, the problem you're having is fitting the WC in with the GM. And I think that's kind of obvious by looking at it. It seems like in a lot of these, the WC seems like an afterthought. Okay, let's take this one for example. You say this was a softer approach. Excuse me. Excuse me. And I see the softer approach, but nonetheless, the WC right there is just, it's forced. It's like, okay, there's a little spot right there. Let's put a WC in there. And then the same thing with this, the GM and then the WC at the bottom. It's like, okay, we got this cool GM monogram, but let me see wellness center. Well, let's just put it right down here. And they seem a little bit forced. Okay. So what I was doing is I was thinking about how do we assemble this? How do we compose this to keep as much visual hierarchy on the WC as we do on the GM because it's George Mason Wellness Center. So you have one of two choices. I think the obvious and easy choice would be to knock out the WC and just go with the GM. However, that might be a little bit too easy. So in terms of addressing and confronting problems at hand, let's not do that. Let's confront the problem of assembling and composing the WC with the same sort of visual hierarchy as the GM. This is the only example I think that has done that successfully. However, I think this is a little bit strange in the way it comes. The W just comes right over here into the curve of the C. So that's definitely worth some further exploration there. The other one I think is this, and let me show you what I have in mind for this. Okay, I just went and I Googled 4-letter monograms, and I think that, well, let me show you what I got. And this is something I think is interesting. This one right here. Now, it's not a circle, so it's more of an oval, which makes sense because, especially would make sense with GMWS because they're not thin letters like I's and S's and some of the letters that take up less visual space than others. So I think going an oval and something like that would be very interesting. Maybe even something like that with a GMWS. So I guess what I'm saying is go ahead and try this, but try fitting those letters in there in the same type of tapered shape that you have developed for the GM, whether it's a circle, an oval, or other. I think that's a really, really interesting approach. We see some of the other approaches here. Here's another one with the 4 letters, and that's interesting. A couple are not. A couple I don't think are very interesting. Like this right here. I don't think this works. I don't think it works. It just looks forced, doesn't it? Doesn't the B and the C look forced in there? Next to the A and D seem like they're perfectly natural, and then same here. I think that L and E are a little bit forced. Not as bad though. Not as bad at all. This one actually flows together pretty well, and I think this one flows together pretty well too. So generally, I think that is a really good. Let me see if we can get a little closer on that. I don't think we can. Well, let me. My computer's going to freak out here for a second. So trying to find that, see if we get. I'm not going to spend too much time looking for that. So let's just get out of there and take a look at the smaller version. But something like that, I think, might be very interesting. GMWS. All right. So fantastic job. Good job on your written rationale. Great job on your sketches. Thank you for numbering your sketches. For it makes it a lot easier. And great written rationale. Thank you so much, Jameline. If you have any questions, and of course, I'm going to allow you to choose your, to weigh in my comments and considerations, and go ahead and take a close look at your work and see what you think after comments and after your peer comments. See what you think the most logical and the most expeditious way to move forward would be. What holds the most potential for you after weighing out all the comments and looking at your examples again, and move from there. And if you have any questions, comments, or if you need any help at all, please let me know. All right. Thanks very much. Good job, Jamie.